Hi, I'm Roger McGulis, Research Director at O'Reilly. I'm here with David Parker from SAP, and we're going to talk some about HANA, the in-memory data management product. And you just announced a partnership with Hortonworks, and maybe you can go into a little detail on how that's working. They seem such different parts of the data scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we've looked at big data in general, we've seen there's an obvious need to store large, vast quantities of data, whether it's be semi-structured data or unstructured data, in kind of a low-cost distributed file system. And obviously Hadoop fits that mode quite nicely. But what we're also seeing is need for instantaneous results, again on structured, unstructured data from the enterprise. So looking at operational data. So we see a nice convergence of actually having something like our in-memory products of SAP HANA working alongside something like a Hadoop distributed file system. So it gives you that nice ecosystem of having real-time instantaneous results with a concept that we've kind of coined to say infinite storage in a Hadoop environment.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things we care a lot about is interactive query capabilities. That we want analysts to be productive, and that means snappy performance coming back. So, in a way, it's a continuation of this. One of the big problems is the infinite storage need, the massive data, and you want relatively real-time insight into what's going on. So how does HANA help close that gap?
So essentially with HANA we have an in-memory system that allows us to do transactional processing and analytical processing from the same platform. So we can take transactional data, whether it's a point of sale information, whether it's a retail transaction, a credit card transaction, and in real time apply analytics to that. We also have a feature as part of HANA that allows us a concept of doing query federation. So I can have an end user inquire data from HANA, and that data may actually reside in something like Hadoop. What HANA will do is actually federate the data query across onto Hadoop, run the query there, either a MapReduce job or pick up information already stored in Hadoop, and then tier and federate that query result set back into HANA. So again, it's combining that real-time insight that we're looking for across large, vast quantities of data.
And does that stay persistent at all? Is that something, I imagine that first query probably takes some time, but then now it's resident in memory afterwards?
Absolutely. So it follows the traditional principles of running a query on an enterprise data warehouse. The first instance may take a little bit longer, but once it's got that result set, it caches the result set.
I ran a big data warehouse where we had a 5 a.m. query to tag everything in memory.
Absolutely. Right. So you kind of stage the environment first, and then at the start of the day, that when your users come in, they're going to get that instantaneous response.
So HANA, you mentioned transactions, you mentioned analysis. It's a lot of capabilities.
It has.
What is the kind of killer feature from your perspective?
Well, the transactional and analytical kind of stands out, but there's a number of different features that I would kind of say is the killer type of functionality. It does have its own predictive engine built into it. It has its own text engine built in, and also geospatial capabilities. But one of the killer things that we're able to do with HANA is reduce the life cycle of how I manage my data, number one, from a data management platform, but more importantly, provide me that real-time insight. So the killer that we see is actually being able to take granular data at the transactional level and actually analyze that data in real time. I don't have to pre-aggregate, I don't have to build cubes of information. I can actually report on the real-time data as it's being fed into from my source systems.
So does that mean not much schema work compared to what's the shape the data's in?
Absolutely. So a traditional data warehouse, you have to think about the shape of the data coming in, derive a schema, and then put on top of that a multi-dimensional schema if you're navigating through hierarchies, and build a cube of information. Now I often refer to that cube as being an ice cube, because the value of it deteriorates over time. Now we can pre-aggregate depending on the needs of the business, so for month-end or quarter-end periodic reporting, where the data doesn't move that frequently, then you can pre-aggregate. But in most circumstances, we aggregate on the fly.
So let's take a step back. You've got this great data capability, you can put it in the hands of analysts. If there was a problem in the world you could solve with data, what would that be?
For me, it's around healthcare. So we have a number of use cases in healthcare, particularly around cancer treatment, where we have several companies that are using HANA to do their iterative processing on doing cancer treatment scenario testing. So looking at genomes and looking at DNA samples that they collect from several different cancer patients. And traditionally what would have taken them months, or if they could do it quick enough, weeks, we can actually get that down to a matter of seconds and minutes in HANA. So what that actually means is that I can look at a cancer patient, and as opposed to saying I have to run all these tests and these stats, it's going to take me a month or two to determine what course of treatment I can give you, I can actually get that down to a matter of seconds and minutes, and therefore provide a diagnosis and prognosis in a much shorter time span. So I can do several things at that point, but two most important things come to mind. That I can give you access to the treatment that you need, that either saves your life or actually prolongs your life. So for me, that's way more important than anything else in terms of looking at my bottom line P&L.
It also sounds like that means you're getting more towards personalized medicine.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
I know is a big trend in the healthcare space.
Correct, yes.
So, well, this is great. Thanks a lot for spending time with us.
That was my pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Great.